Hey everyone. In today's video, I want to talk about Freshservice. Uh, Freshservice is an ITSM platform from Freshworks. They also have Freshdesk, which is kind of a help desk tool for small businesses. I'm actually not sure how old Freshservice is, um, but it's their enterprise version, so really appropriate for folks moving off of Cherwell. Um, and in this video, we're going to take a look at it. Uh, I want to mention first that this video is part of the series that I'm doing on all of the ITSM platforms that I saw at Service Management World. There were 13 vendors in total, so there will be 13 videos, plus a few at the beginning and the end, kind of providing an overview of this whole process. And there will also be a kind of a written report uh, that goes into a little bit more detail about specific aspects that I'm evaluating all of these platforms on. You can find links to both the playlist of all the videos and the report itself down in the description below. The report isn't actually out yet, so it's actually a form to basically get on the list. And when the report is done, you'll get a copy emailed to you. If you're watching this video at some point in the future and the report is out, going to that same link will get you an email of the report directly because it's out. So you don't have to wait. Um, and basically, what I'm doing is comparing all of these platforms to the Cherwell experience. So not necessarily against each other. I'm not trying to figure out which one is the best or which one has the highest potential or anything like that. It's just from the perspective of, okay, so you're familiar with Cherwell. How do these how does each platform stack up against your expectations? So with that, let's talk about Freshservice. Now, Freshservice is pretty solid on all of the dimensions that I evaluated it against. Uh, but rather than just go through each one of them and showing you, hey, look, it can do what you expect it to do. I want to talk about some of the areas where it really shined, where it really stood out to me. Um, and in fact, it stood out to me in comparison to some of the other tools that I've evaluated so far. So let's start off with switching to my demo site or my demo screen. And here's Freshservice. When you first sign up for it, they actually have a really solid onboarding experience. So you can see I've actually not gone through most of it at all. I kind of deviated from the onboarding experience right away, partially so that I could show you the onboarding experience, and partially because I'm not using this for production. I'm not trying to try this out from the perspective of actually using it in my organization. I wanted to go right to the things that I knew I cared about, things like customization, which we'll get to in just a second. But one of the things that I want to mention on this screen is that they're more than just ITSM. So they've got asset management, IT operations management, and project management. So there were actually four like checkboxes when I signed up for the demo or the trial instance. Uh, Service management, asset management, operations management, and project management. Um, I am not going to go into all of those areas, certainly in this video, and also not for the report, but I did check the boxes for all of them just so that I could dive into what each one offered. Um, because I'll be honest, Freshservice is actually one of the ones that I would consider using um, internally. I think they strike the balance between uh, giving you something very capable out of the box right away, but also uh, setting the stage and setting the pathway for vast customizability. I think they do a really good job at doing that. A little bit different from Cherwell, but I think it provides kind of the right balance of being ready to go out of the box. I mean, realistically, all of the platforms have some sort of experience ready to go out of the box, but I feel like Freshservice, you could do quite a bit without doing a whole lot of customization, and then kind of customize as you need to. So let's talk about customization. We'll go down to admin down here, which, like most of these tools, there is uh, just an amazing quantity of administrative settings. Some tools call it configuration. Here it's called admin. Um, But one thing that struck me was there's a lot of stuff about account settings that's really up at the top. Um, that's cool, but maybe not what I would have picked to be right up at the top. Same thing with user management. These take up most of the screen, and while users and agents and that sort of thing, like that's important, you kind of expect that to be there, so you're okay. I at least am okay with searching a little bit because I know I'm going to find it. There's no system out there that's not going to have user management and group management and roles and that sort of thing. Um, so I'd rather see, some of this other stuff, like especially this service management section. Considering I am evaluating this from a service management perspective, this is kind of what I'd want to see right up front. Um, but they have a lot of other stuff that's up at the top. So we've got service management, where you can set up lots of different uh, customizable aspects, life cycles, form templates, fields, custom fields, priorities, SLAs, LLAs, that sort of thing. But what I want to show is their automation capabilities. Um, and So we're going to go into this workflow automator. You can see it says, well, if I go back just a second, automate processes using a drag and drop workflow builder. Okay, that sounds familiar. We're used to that from the one-step editor. So let's drill in. Okay, so now we have different modules. Okay, that's fine. Um, it's not quite like Cherwell. Cherwell, you had things broken down by business objects, but okay, different systems, they behave slightly differently. Okay, so tickets. Let's think about tickets. It looks like here we have a bunch of different uh, workflows. Um, each one takes up a lot of space on the screen. So I guess the assumption is that you probably wouldn't have quite as many workflows as you had one steps in Cherwell. And I think there's actually a good reason for that. I'm going to click into this one that I was playing around with, promote the self-service portal, which I think is a clone that I made of one that's kind of out of the box, prepackaged. Um, and let's take a look at what we have here. So there is a drag and drop interface, but one of the first things I expect from the one-step editor is that I can drag things around. That is not the case here. So you do see, apparently thought I clicked something. You do see a canvas, but it everything is just in a line across the screen. So this actually does start to make a little bit more sense once you get into things like what is it? I think conditions. There's a way, like on this condition, there's no, there's only a yes. There isn't any no. Um, which now that I'm in here, I forget how to add a a no option. But one of the things that I noticed right off the bat is that there really isn't a lot on this toolbox, whatever you want to call it, which worried me. I'll be honest, seeing what is this, 9 options when one steps have like 30 something options, this concerned me. But if you actually look at what they are, event, okay, how is this going to get triggered? That makes sense. Conditions, okay, that makes sense. Um, and that's basically a decision, right? A yes or a no. Some of the more complicated workflows actually have a yes, have a condition, chain to a condition, and depending on which condition is yes, it does different things. So that's how you would accomplish kind of the decide between multiple cases situation. We'll come back to action in just a second. But if you look at what these actually are, each one is pretty capable. Web request, that's pretty powerful. That means you can call off to just about anything and do whatever you want it to do. Expression, this is set of value from a one step. Um, Timer, I added one. I called it wait 3 days. So there's that. JSON parser, this is something that Cherwell never really had. you could do regular expressions, and you could kind of do some XML and JSON-y stuff. Um, but this is actually a whole lot more powerful, this JSON parser, right? Uh, you parse out some JSON, and you could actually get a lot of values out. And then this app, well, this is actually kind of magical because they have lots of different, basically third-party plugins that can do a lot of things. So some of the common ones, G Suite, AWS, Azure, Okta, that sort of thing. They actually have quite a few. So that significantly multiplies the capabilities of this tool. Uh, I didn't look at Reader. I'm not actually sure what that is, but let's take a look at Action. I mentioned I wanted to come back to this. So we still are missing so far a lot of things like setting fields on records, creating new records, creating child records, traversing relationships and that sort of thing. Well, it turns out that action is all of those things. So perform these actions on the ticket, associated child tickets, associated successor tickets. What do you actually want to do? Do you want to set some fields? Do you want to add a note, add a tag, add CC to someone, trigger webhook? All of these different things are basically all of the other one-step actions that you're used to seeing in that left-hand bar in the one-step editor. So even though it looks like there really isn't a lot here, it actually turns out that it's all buried under action. Um, so it is probably at least as powerful as the one-step editor, possibly even more powerful with the addition of these apps, um, just because you get like pre-packaged functionality that you can add into these workflows. Uh, so I thought this was pretty powerful. I was really impressed with that. Now, one thing that is a little weird is that their documentation is okay. Um, so they do have a support site, support.freshservice.com. And you can go through getting started guides, which are like how to be a specific role, right? Administrator, agent, end user, that sort of thing. Okay. Um, they kind of have all the basics, but then trying to find something like I was looking for, do they have an on-premise version, which they do not. Um, but so I searched for things like installation. And there was actually lots of stuff about installing other things. Um, we can also see like workflow actions, and you can find lots of questions and answers and that sort of thing. But as far as I could tell, there was no like overarching hierarchy um, for their support and um, their documentation site. So even getting started was just like a set of knowledge articles. So, but they have quite a bit. So there's a lot of content here. If you could find it, it's probably there. Uh, but you're not going to find something that's, like a CHM, a Windows help file, like Cherwell had actually for a long time, and then it grew into the documentation site. But all that being said, I th- I think Freshservice is a really uh, powerful platform. I think if you try it out, you'll find a lot of capabilities um, that you would expect from something that's comparable to Cherwell, um, even though it goes about doing things in a very different way, right? So I've said before, and I'm sure I'll say again, there's nothing out there that behaves just like Cherwell. Um, and that's true, but in a lot of cases, it can all these platforms can do a lot of the same things that Cherwell could do, just in a different way. It's a different paradigm. And once you learn and understand the paradigm, it all starts to make sense. Um, Freshservice comes with its own paradigm. Um, but that being said, I think that the workflows and the automations are probably the most complete implementation that I've seen of any of the platforms that I've looked through so far. Um, and certainly the most comparable to Cherwell that I've seen. Um, I will say there's definitely some aspects of it where it's at a little bit higher level than the one steps, right? One steps were very down in the weeds. Do this thing. Here's how you do this transition. Um, this particular point in time automation of a ticket, unless you were dealing with like automation processes and stuff like that. But for the most part, Cherwell didn't concern itself, um, at least from the automation perspective, with the overall workflow. You could certainly define life cycles and that sort of thing, and you could do it in Cherwell. But the one steps, the core of the automation, was a little bit finer grained. It was a little bit lower level. I feel like Freshservice is kind of somewhere in between. You have a little bit more power in the automations than what you had in a one step, but it's not quite at a high level, uh, as high a level as some of the other workflow, like specifically workflow automation implementations in some of the other platforms. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a comment down below, ask me a question. If you have any other questions about Freshservice, let me know. Drop a question down below. I am in contact with the folks at Freshservice. Um, uh, I've been working with them for a while. They're really hungry to get their name out into the Cherwell market as well. So if you're interested in getting a demo of Freshservice, I can definitely hook you up with the right people. If you have questions about Freshservice, um, let me know, and I will get you to the right folks. There are some, uh, I guess, possibly still current Cherwell partners or former Cherwell partners who are now Freshservice partners. I can get you hooked up with them, or I can get you hooked up with Freshservice specifically, the main company. Um, so if you have any questions, leave them down below or shoot them my way. Again, if you want access to the report or the rest of the videos in this series, there's a link to the playlist down below, as well as to get an emailed copy of that report. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please click that, well, thumbs up, like the video, and click the subscribe button so you'll get notified when the rest of the videos in this series come out. Uh, and you can see some of the stuff that we're working on, right? In addition to just putting out this video series and this report, we do have our own products that we're working on. You can see those in other videos on the channel, which might also be linked down in the description below. There's also a bunch of links there to our website and that sort of thing. You can check out all of that. With that, I'm going to end the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.